I could turn back time, I would never have done any of this.
That's a reference to this movie.
I hate you so much, Jake.
Through the Looking Glass.
I don't even... It's been too long, everybody.
Too much.
In some ways, with this intro, it hasn't been enough time. I've been, and I somehow continue to be, soldiering on Lucas Melby alongside
Jacob Telejohn.
And we're back. It's been a while, as we've, at least in one episode, we sang that song. This time, I don't even actually know the words after If I Could Turn Back Time. I think there's...
I don't know.
It's a song of some kind.
But
we're a whole new pod, the podcast all about Disney Channel.
Original movies.
And we've returned to our roots with this episode. And it's a classic episode, full featured episode. We're having a return to Disney form for us. We've got a whole new pop segment coming later. And I'll plug at the top right now, if you are somehow... well, let's just clear that up. If somehow you're a fan of ours, but if you're a fan of ours who does not follow our YouTube channel, since our last episode on Tall Girl, which at this point we actually recorded close to 2 months ago, so we are quite rusty, me and Jacob did a fully featured, a whole new pop video. You can see our faces again. Don't recommend it. Don't watch it while you're eating dinner or anything.
Yeah.
Where we tried 3 new flavors of Mountain Dew, as well as a secret. Actually, you know what? I'll reveal the surprise. We also tried blue Star Wars milk. And I'll say that here because I did go back to the store and found that they were still selling it. But then I checked the dates and there was actually one that was even older than the one we drank in that video. And at that point it would have been like a week and a half or 2 weeks past its best by date. But they've been selling more blue milk at the store. But I just went back to my classic chocolate.
Missed opportunity.
Well, you kept wanting more blue milk after we finished the video, and I poured you a glass, and you didn't even finish the last one. He wasted like half a glass of blue milk.
Did I really?
Yeah.
I didn't even maybe I got busy or didn't realize there was milk in there.
Yeah, Jacob Telejohn got busy.
Was I like bringing stuff in? On my way
of taking him home.
I didn't even remember that it was. I don't know. I didn't even notice that. I would have drank it all. I don't know if I was helping to bring something in. Maybe.
Maybe.
From outside?
It wouldn't be the only time you've left half-drinking cans of Dr. Pepper or various things around.
I would have.
Welcome to a whole new pod where I air all of my grievances about how much I fucking hate Jacob Telejohn. Had it bottled up inside for 2 months.
Now it could explode. This is his release. This is like, instead of therapy, this is where we get.
Oh, together. I know what my issues are. And they rhyme with Jacob Telejohn.
Jacob. Descendants, The Rise of Red.
Well, no.
That was not enough vamping. We got a double the
some
vamp.
Stuff's happened. We mentioned in our YouTube video, our locale was in national news because of lots of flooding we had. Stuff's happened. There's the window air conditioner's back in the window next to me right now.
Bird nest?
I haven't heard any fucking birds around.
Wow.
So I think we maybe had around our house. We were too nice to the birds last year, putting out bird seed and feeders and stuff. Like, we ain't doing that shit this year. So the sparrows or whatever, they ain't around. Wow. They got the message last year.
Tough scene.
But we'll probably get some echoey stuff coming from, cop cars coming to pick me up at the end of the episode once I murder Jacob.
Wow. You're going to long legs me.
All right. Matthew McConaughey. That was...
All right.
Jacob hasn't seen that.
I get it. I get the reference.
Oh, what's it from?
All right.
But what movie does he say that in?
Like the one from like the early 90s? The coming of age high school movie? Can't even think.
We got him.
That's the thing about them high school.
It's Dazed and Confused. It's a great victory to have Jacob not remember something. It never happens. He always remembers. His mind's like a steel trap.
It's like a sponge.
Steel trap engineered by an elephant.
Oh.
Never forget.
Oh, man.
All right. Now we can do... what's this shit? Descendants, : we got a colon in here. The Rise of Red. The much awaited, anticipated follow-up to the first 3 Descendants movies, where...
Based on a prequel book. That came out in May. I just read about it.
I mean, yeah, they've had like extended universe stuff, so they kind of concluded some of the stories of the original characters in like at least based on screenshots, horribly looking animated cartoons, like 15-minute ones that pop up on Disney Plus called like The Royal Wedding. So Mal and Ben have been married or whatever. That doesn't matter. But 5 years, it's a decent length of time. I was thinking about with Severance, season 2 of Severance, the Apple TV Plus show finally getting announced, where it's 3 years, and thinking about like high school. High school was 4 years of our life.
Yeah.
5 years waiting between like Descendants movies. Like that is a huge portion of a lot of like the lives of like original Descendants fans.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how long stuff takes, but now I'm like 3 years. That's not that long to wait. I mean, we used to wait like 2 years between Batman movies, and it was like 4 years between Batman movies. We survived that.
We made it. We're here now.
But I mentioned the time gap because there seems to be a phenomenon with this Descendants movies where the fans hate it. And me and Jacob, at least, this movie gave similar vibes to the first three. We're not dyed-in-the-wool Descendants fans. We have no nostalgia for this. We didn't grow up with it. So for us, it's like, I don't know, this seems just as bad or just as good. I'd say probably on the better side of the series.
Better.
Definitely seems to have a bigger budget.
A lot more CGI.
Fans,
more bigger dances.
Whatever reasons, maybe it's the characters didn't come back.
There's only 2.
They're diehard Kenny Ortega fans, and they're like, you didn't get Kenny Ortega to direct this movie?
So, there's not only 2 of the same characters from the other movies. There are 2 of the same actors. Because we do see some characters...
Okay, yeah. What I'm mostly trying to... My thesis here is that these fans who last watched Descendants 3, and Descendants 3 was already kind of like, this is kind of the worst one, it seemed like, at least based on ratings around on the internet and stuff like that. Fast forward 5 years from that, it's like, this isn't my Descendants.
Not my hashtag.
Even though it's really kind of the same, people not liking the costumes or like the wigs or the hairstyling. It's like, this is all pretty much of the stylistic aesthetic of Descendants. It's just now you are older and you don't have the self-awareness to be like, oh, this thing from my childhood that I have nostalgia for maybe actually isn't that good. Which is maybe kind of my mission statement from my point of view on the podcast, where I didn't watch any of these movies we mostly have covered on the show as a kid. So I'm just like, now this movie kind of sucks.
I'd like to think that we got like an early streamer for this movie, because this movie actually doesn't release on the Disney Channel until August 9th.
Well, that's why it's not a Disney Channel original movie. It's a Disney original film. Yeah. And so we could have watched it even earlier, but I'm working around Jacob Telejohn's schedule here. Jacob was also like, we got to watch the Big City Greens movie. And I'm like, no, Jacob, we're not watching that movie. It's not a DCOM. We watched all the DCOM.
This one was good, though. I'm glad we watched this one.
And skipping ahead to the end, we might get a little teaser that we might have another one in our future to dread or look forward to. But as Jacob said earlier, that's enough vamping to give it us to the beginning of Descendants, The Rise of Red, which immediately had Jacob saying, what are we looking at? Which was, of course, I knew a nice, beautiful...
not a globe.
Like a CG map of Oregon. And
pretty
just
cool.
like the change between Zombies 2 and Zombies 3 being like Zombies 3 technically premiered on Disney Plus first. They like ratchet up the effects budget. Like if you look at like the dragon that Jacob thought looked pretty good in some of the earlier Descendants movies, it's blown out of the water here.
The map is awesome. Like you said, Oregon.
To answer Jacob's question of what are we looking at, we immediately get narration from Uma, of course, the daughter of Ursula, who is saying like, yo, this is
older
Oregon.
Sister of Ursulia, Urlissa.
Jacob's mind honed. He catches all. I'll tell you who he's trying to talk about later. But Uma giving us updates to be like, oh yeah, Ben and Mal, they got married off camera. They ain't in this movie.
And they show just still images of the characters we know from these older movies just on the wall. We also see an image of...
Well, we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're still just doing some catch-up where we learn that, because with how the last movies ended, the villain prison island has ended. The children, at least, are allowed to get off of it to go to Ordon Prep, where Uma says villains rule, and I'm like, question mark?
Because
but then we see
she's the principal.
the new headmaster, which is like,
Or
what?
yeah.
And then we see Fairy Godmother, who is the previous headmaster. So those are the
Bippity-boppity.
only two returning characters, is
Yeah.
Uma and Fairy Godmother. And she's like, I guess I lost my job for reasons, and now you're the headmaster. And she's got her pirate crew who's always doing tumbles and flips
parkour.
around. I hate the
Flipping
pirates in these
Oh.
movies. They suck so much.
Oh.
But then Uma's kind of shaking things up. We were kind of talking over some of this stuff. At one point, she looks over. This is where she looks at the wall of pictures, including one of Carlos, who was the guy who died. I can't remember. Cameron
Boyce?
Yes, that's his name. And she's like, this is what Carlos would have wanted,
And they
which
shed
is that
tears.
she is going to extend invitations to Wonderland to come to Oridon Prep, because it's like, oh, Prison Island, that's fine. But Wonderland, it's like, oh, we have to find a different villain ghetto to be like, oh, it's like, how many like no-go zones does the Kingdom of Oridon have?
And Wonderland, obviously, Alice in Wonderland and the Queen of Hearts.
Yeah, Jacob, obviously, Jacob definitely knew that, being like, what am I looking at? Jacob, hey, Jacob wants to watch Mr. Magoo. I feel like I'm with Mr. Magoo when we're watching all of these movies. So we check into Wonderland, going down a hole, going down the rabbit hole.
Which isn't really like a rabbit. It's more just,
in retrospect, they don't have a rabbit.
No, there's no rabbit.
They have effects, but I guess they don't want to mess around.
It is just like a tree. It says "Do not enter," but it's like a road inside
kind
the
of
tree.
like a mine, like a
yeah,
foreclosed on mine shaft or something.
It's just like a winding road they can drive through.
And like the art design and the effects aren't necessarily like top tier, but they're certainly many steps above.
Wonderland looks really weird. Like you said, I don't know what effects they.
Jacob was questioning how they did it.
It looks weird.
And I'm guessing, as is the case with most of Disney's like Star Wars Disney Plus shows, is that they use the technology called the volume.
Yeah.
I have no basis in whether that's what happened or not. It looks pretty good.
Yeah.
The Queen of Hearts, though, is an evil tyrant.
Played by a 33-year-old.
As opposed to all the other villains who... It's like, oh, Wonderland, but she's bad. It's like, well, that was the case with all the other villains. Yeah. They're bad people. That's what these movies are all about.
And she never wanted to make the change. She never, she's still bad.
But as seemed to be the case with all of their offspring, and maybe there's something to be said, like, the villains are just naturally bad, so they're also naturally bad parents. So then they're bad at passing on their villainous ways to their children, because all of the children we meet...
They want to do nice things.
Kind of besides Uma, but I guess Uma also kind of shaped up. So we meet the Queen of Hearts' daughter, Red, who is resisting her parents, or her mom. We don't really know who her dad is.
No dad.
Maybe that's in the sequel.
Ooh.
Kind of just like what happened with Mal. And we learned about her in her introductory song, Red, where she, my notes say, fucking shit up is very much kind of like the intro songs of Rotten to the Core, where she's like just doing vandalism.
Yeah. She's going around town. She's cutting a lot of roses, like hundreds of roses. She's cutting those up. She's smashing vases. Like you said,
she throws a paint balloon at a banner of her
mother.
And she's being chased around by like they're not like the cards in the cartoon.
That would have been
But
cool.
they are supposed to be the cards. They just aren't card shaped. They're just kind of normal knights. Their outfits are kind of lame. So it's very much like a very modern hip hop sounding song. But then there's some group stuff with the army where they're like, we're going to catch her. And they're about to catch her at the end of the song. But then she's snapped up by like
a claw.
Like a claw game that is controlled by the Maddest Hatter.
The Mad Hatter's son.
That's just what we presume.
We never see the Mad Hatter.
It's maybe the Mad Hatter's son was Madder Hatter.
Oh.
And then we get Maddest Hatter or something like that. And he is the tutor of Red, and he's like, oh, you getting up into so much trouble, but I know you're good at heart. So a lot of this movie, I will say, maybe points in its favor. It's good 10 to 20 minutes shorter than all the other Descendants movies. So I love that. But Red's character doesn't really have the same arc as Mal, where Mal goes to Oridon initially to do evil stuff on behalf of the parents, but then becomes good. Red is kind of just always good. She hates her mom.
Yeah.
She thinks her mom's evil, and she also doesn't want to like become like her mom in kind of typical teen angsty ways. But she seems good for the most
Her
part.
vandalism is warranted.
Yeah, but again,
Accepted.
it's,
She's
resistance
fighting
vandalism.
crime with crime.
We also are introduced here that the Maddest Hatter has the rabbit's magic pocket watch, which I guess is a time travel device. I think Red says something like, well, I could use that and just fix everything. And he's like, no, you could lose your mom.
Which she doesn't.
No.
Spoiler alert. But maybe something else happened that we don't know yet about.
She slips away, and as she slips away, because she's so evil, she steals the watch without Maddest Hatter knowing. Next scene, we are introduced to our other principal character, who is Chloe, who I got tripped up a bit because gotta remember Chad Charming from the original Descendants movies. I thought he was somehow mixed in here, but Chloe is the daughter of Cinderella and Prince Christopher, so not Prince Charming. And
is like Prince Christopher like canon? Is that like a real thing?
I guess. Cinderella is definitely one of the Disney movies I've watched the least.
Yeah.
I think that one doesn't really hold up the best because it's got a lot of mouse shenanigans.
They're fencing.
Lucifer.
The cat. Yeah, they're fencing, and her dad looks very young. Just like with Red's mom, so we looked it up. We're like, her mom looks really young. Her mom's 33. How old did we say she was? Like 19? Yeah.
And all these people,
difference?
Modern Disney fans, I think Red's actress is from the High School Musical, the show or the series thing. And I'm sure Chloe is also in Bizarrevark or whatever.
And you had kind of a fun fact that the individuals playing Christopher and Cinderella.
So Brandy is Cinderella. Brandy, who was pretty successful musician, I believe, in the 90s. And then also Prince Christopher is Paolo Montalban. And both of them played these characters in a Disney made-for-TV movie in 1997 or something.
Yeah.
So it's a
callback.
I don't think anybody's
going
to be like, I need to watch this movie now.
Easter egg.
But it's a little fun thing. It's not like an obvious play at nostalgia, because I feel like I maybe watched this, but I might be, because I think this is the one where Whoopi Goldberg is fairy godmother. In that one maybe.
That sounds.
So maybe that's why it's like we can't.
Maybe I have
Whoopi.
seen that.
Yeah,
it breaks the mold of the movie.
Chloe has. I mean, everybody's wearing like wigs in this movie, but Chloe's wig is
very
out of
long,
control.
Very blue.
She looks like her mom should be Whoopi Goldberg. Maybe it's a big head of hair.
A lot of hair.
More
than her mother.
There's something where the Queen of Hearts is mad at Jack of Hearts, like the head of her guard, possibly because
she let Red get away.
Yeah, something like that. She's trying to show Red her, monarchical ways.
What are you gonna do with him? Are you gonna chop off his head? And she's like, she's scared. She doesn't know what to say, and she says, "I shall." She says, "Off with his hat," and then she just takes his hat off his head and puts it on her own. And then the mom's pissed because she wanted heads rolling, and then kind of gives her a spiel.
She's like, "No, you have to kill him," and it's escalating. But then they are interrupted by the arrival of Uma's letter,
Harry Potter letter,
which I believe, is supposed to be reading itself to them, announcing that Red is invited to attend Oridon Prep.
So Red is talking. Who's she talking to? Like, she's talking to the
Maddest Hatter.
Like, Mom's never gonna let me do this. She hates me. Blah blah blah. And the mom's like, I'm
evil.
But you can go. You can go. And
she's got an accent that.
Very interesting accent.
Spoiler: we're gonna find her younger version. The younger version does not have an accent.
Doesn't look anything like her.
Well, I mean, what can you do?
I mean, but that's what it's supposed to be, because she changed. Something caused her to change.
Yeah, she got more like melanin in her skin. So then we get a fun cross cut between Chloe, who goes to Oridon Prep, I think in a horse-drawn carriage or something, versus the Queen of Hearts has what I believe is called a side-by-side, which is a really big
ATV.
ATV, but it's got like an enclosure around it.
Got a
and
bunch
they're
of
just
luggage.
busting through like the barricades that were closing off the Wonderland mine.
Yeah.
Which is just weird. But I mean, in the original movies, they took a magic limousine to cross the river.
Yes.
So there's far more magic in this movie than probably the first two.
It's very magical.
3. I think the third movie had more magic.
CGI.
The first two Descendants movies, very unmagical.
Yeah.
Was it 2 or 3 where they had I think it was a 2 where they had a 3D printer? God, that made me mad.
I remember that.
But then we get a song that first starts out as very much like a Queen of Hearts Red song called Love Ain't It. But then other characters are cutting in. It's kind of like, becomes kind of a exposition song. So it starts out very modern hip hoppy again. But then there's like guards that are like chanting, being like, she's always like saying off with your head. And then Brandy as Cinderella is being like, this bitch crazy. I used to know her.
All the songs are really good in this movie. I don't know.
I won't say really good, but I think they're
good enough.
More of like, whereas some of the other Descendants movies, we'd have like one song we really liked or a couple that were decent. I think the level of quality for these songs is higher, but it might be something of like, these songs are taking from like popular styles right now, which generally I'm not like a huge fan of a lot of like the trap rap or more popular stuff right now.
Yeah.
But like when you look back at like 2015, like Rotten to the Core with like dubsteppy LMFAO stuff that was even old by that point in time, I was like, this aged really bad. During this song, the Queen of Hearts.
Yes.
Is also revealing her plan to Red, though she doesn't exactly know. She's just basically being like, I hate all these fucking people around here. We're going to rule them.
They're all scared of her because she didn't even bring like a posse with her that we know of yet at this point.
Not that I loved a lot of the choreography or scene composition in the first movies, but some of it in this one is maybe a little weaker. So missing that touch of Kenny Ortega, perhaps.
Yeah, Kenny.
Where this, as like the Queen of Hearts is talking about her plan, it'll like transition, be like a scene wipe where now it's all red and like all of the subjects of Ordon are just dancing randomly to like imply or show her control of them. But it's just like, I don't know, stuff is happening on screen. I like the song, but some of this other stuff, I don't really know what's going on.
Fair enough.
Uma then comes out because this is like the first day of school,
orientation,
or opening ceremony,
okay,
yeah, that kind of stuff. She sings, of course, her famous song.
Uma.
What's
my name? What's my name? Uma.
And then she gives a brief introduction to be like, if you don't be good, you gonna walk the plank. But then the evil queen, I keep saying evil queen, that's a different character in these movies. The Queen of Hearts then throws her deck of cards up into the air and summons down her soldiers.
Yeah, soldiers and like giant playing cards that block the doors. Everybody's trapped in like this in the courtyard. Everybody's scared because she's like, oh, I'm going to get revenge for the way you bullied me. And
she calls it out. She's like, I'm doing a coup.
Yeah.
Don't you know what a coup is? This is what a coup is. And she pulls out the famous From Wonderland looking glass, which is just a little compact mirror she has. And she shows it to
Red.
Red, to be like, see, you're going to be my hot, like, side by side or right hand princess. And she's like, no. And we're going to kill Cinderella. No.
But then she asks Red, like, here's Cinderella. She did all this bad stuff to me. What should we do with her? And, or what's her
and Cinderella says,
charged with?
Why? Bridget. This is where we learned that the Queen of Hearts' name is Bridget.
She uses it several times.
It was just a prank. Which honestly,
we never find out what the prank is, do we?
Well, it's because they subvert the prank or whatever.
Spoiler alert.
But this implies that Cinderella was involved with it, which
we don't
seems to be how it could ever play out.
No, because they're friends.
Which makes it a little confusing why this movie plot-wise, it's not great. It's not perfect, especially when you introduce time travel into these things. Sometimes you got to really... Well, you don't have to, but
some loose ends.
You want them to have really solid logic. But this is just like, well, we got a fun song that her mom sings. Yeah, so you just kind of look past some of those kinds of things.
So Red ends up saying that like Cinderella was guilty of treason.
Because she will not bend the knee to the
Yeah, oh yeah, because she said, "Isn't it just? It'd be so easy if you just, like gave in." And she's like, "No, it goes all against my morals."
She's like, "I won't give up for what I believe in," and it's like, what do you believe in?
Truth.
What is Ordon based on?
Justice.
You guys like imprison
Freedom.
people because their parents were bad.
That's true. But so she summons her to treason, which the
off with her head.
Off with
You're
her
gonna
head,
get her
yeah.
head fucking cut off.
yeah, and then
So then Red's like, maybe I shouldn't have just said that to her.
so they start fighting with or she's about to fight with.
So what happens is Red says treason, and then the Queen of Hearts says, "Oh, that means she's gonna be killed." And Red's like, shouldn't I probably shouldn't have that. She's starting to pull out the magic stop pocket watch.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Chloe is like, but my mom, and her thing is she's got a sword. So she pulls out her
Yes.
sword and she starts to scuffle with Red. And in that scuffle, they
watch
activate
gets
the watch.
Turn and they go back in time.
Back in time.
They Marty McFly it. 1985 it.
It's a fun little effect as, swirling numbers and clocks and everything like that.
Yeah.
And
They're in
they
the same spot.
immediately then run into what seems to be a young fairy godmother
Yeah.
who is bad at magic.
She's bippity bopping her book
Trying
all
to-
over the place.
I wanted to speed read, not send my book across the room,
Yeah.
or that wasn't quite right.
No.
There's nobody around. So Red's like, I just wanted to go back a couple of minutes, but I guess the watch sent us back to the time we needed to be.
Like they kind of played dumb. They're like, well,
I wouldn't say that they play dumb because this movie, again, is only 90-something minutes. So they figure stuff out like immediately.
It is quick. So they're like, oh, well, so we're not at Ordon anymore. What is this? Oh, it's Merlin's Academy. That's what it was before. There's a young bippity bopper around here. We must have gone back in time.
But then they got to still fight. So this song is
Yeah.
called Fight of Our Lives.
Ooh.
And I thought this one, at least in part, sometimes it gets into like spoken word dialogue where they need to like
walking
kind of
around.
push the story forward a bit
Yeah.
more. But I thought it was very like Olivia Rodrigo coded, a little pop punky.
Wow.
As that's been coming
Hot Girl
back.
Summer.
That's not Olivia
Is that
Rodrigo.
I don't know. I feel
Hot
like
Girl Summer, that was like I don't even know how long ago it was. And I believe that's Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, I don't know. I just feel like I've heard Hot Girl Summer mentioned with Olivia Rodrigo. I don't know pop culture anymore.
Well, Jacob, currently we are in Brat Summer. So
Brat?
talk to some children around you. Maybe they can fill you in.
I've never heard of that.
Well,
Children, inform me.
we'll talk off.
Children assemble.
All right, we got it. Oh shit, they're breaking down the door. So yeah, it's some fun fight choreography. Red has like a broom or something at one point,
Yeah.
and fighting the sword. The pocket watch flies up to a
Gets
Pegasus or a unicorn
Like,
statue.
oh, we gotta be united. Work together.
Yeah, basically by the end of the song, they've decided to be on the
It
same
looks like they're
team.
gonna kiss.
It does. And
It's all in the letterbox reviews.
The letterbox writers went crazy. Oh, I can't reach this by myself. Well, I'll lift you up. And with her sword, she gets the chain or whatever.
Yay.
And then
That's
they walk
my-
around a corner and it's like, shit, this isn't Oridon. Oh, because Fairy Godmother, they were like, oh, is this Oridon prep? And she's like, Oridon?
What is
What is
that?
Oridon? And I'm like, what the hell? You're telling me that Oridon hasn't existed for like centuries? And
Yeah.
we find out, oh no, this is Merlin Academy because
Which came
Oridon
before.
prep and Oridon wasn't a thing until Beast united all the kingdoms. And I'm like, wait, so like Prison Island was like only like a thing for like
20 years.
something like that. Because we'll also find out all the villains are at Merlin Academy, which
But-
I don't know
Yeah, they are.
why that's allowed.
Like Hades, Maleficent,
It's like they were
some lizard boy.
they were more tolerant like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, fuck them. But
Maybe
we don't
they were
even
just
know why
more-
they're so mad at
Maybe
them.
they were just more afraid of Merlin. Maybe Merlin was more powerful and could control these people. Well, he kind of did. He could freeze them. I don't know.
Yeah, he used too much magic. And then in Oridon prep, they're like, no magic here.
No.
Only 3D printers. So we see a poster for Castle Coming,
Castle Coming,
which we never see.
not Homecoming.
We thought it was, I mean, it's kind of like it's the big dance.
The big game.
It kind of seemed to be like the big game, but we don't get to see Castle
No,
Coming.
the missed opportunity.
Well, maybe, but also bad name.
The movie seemed
Don't
like
like Castle
the
Coming.
movie. No comment. I could have thrown a comment
But
in there.
going along with the economy of them figuring stuff out, they're like, oh, this is Merlin Academy. Castle coming. Oh, I think my mom was saying that's where that prank happened because it was about like the first dance. We're like, all right, shit, that's in 3 days. Okay, we gotta
tick.
Gotta figure this shit out.
The movie wraps up very quickly.
Yes, it's not a great ending. Merlin is the principal. He's very full of himself to name the academy after himself.
Yeah, but he's not really in the movie too much. He just seems kind of goofy. He doesn't really give Merlin vibes. I don't know.
Merlin's a goofy guy.
This guy just didn't seem Merlin goofy then. I don't know.
Well, you needed to play more Kingdom Hearts then.
Ooh.
They run into him and he's like, "Who beest you?" And they're like, we're transfer students." He's like, but I should have gotten letters. I'm the principal.
So
and
he
he's
looks
pulling
through,
stuff out of his robe and it's funny. And then
he gets distracted, or no, they have to go to his classroom.
He's like, well, if you're transfer students, obviously you're in my advanced alchemy class, so come along.
With 50 other children.
And who are two of these students in this first class? Why, it's their parents.
Bridget.
It's Cinderella, who goes by Ella. And Bridget. And she's like, but Bridget, but that's my mom's name.
And Bridget is not in red. She is in pink and looks kind of like a sugar cookie. Just looks like somebody that bakes, because she does.
She looks like somebody that bakes. Wow, Jacob, you're just judging a book by its cover.
Because she has cookies.
But then Chloe sees her mom and says, "Mom!" And I think maybe I was getting like gaslit or something by like my coworkers, but like that was the thing. Like, did you ever accidentally call like a teacher in school mom?
I haven't, but I know that premise. I know about that.
So, okay, well, I'll admit, I've called a teacher mom before.
Not mommy.
I think everybody else is so traumatized. Well, no, I don't call my mom mommy. That's something if you talk about me going to therapy, that's something for you to go through therapy for. But like my coworkers, I think it's just people are so traumatized that then they repress the memory. They're like, I never called the teacher mom. Yeah. I think you're a mama's boy. And it's just like, no, it's just, you associate things. There's some times where I've been mad at, I was gonna make a joke. The truth is that sometimes I've been mad at my friends and I've called them my brother's name. I'll be like, Brody. I was gonna be like, sometimes I'm mad at someone and I go, tell it, John. But maybe that has happened before. But then she like, I don't know, somehow Chloe recovers from calling her classmate mom. And she's like,
oh, hey, new girl.
Ella from around the block.
Yeah.
They're not wasting any time. They're becoming friends. And then we get to definitely the best song of the movie, but also kind of the best sequence of the movie, where
with the evils, because they're walking through the hallway and then they get up to the courtyard, right?
Well, no, because first
she has the cupcakes.
Yes,
that change.
So emphasize she bakes. Yes. Bridget, the Queen of Hearts, but also she's really nice.
Yeah, very kind.
Almost too nice.
She's giving out her cupcakes to everyone.
She got a secret. No, she doesn't.
No.
She's just really nice. She even says, I was homeschooled. And it's like, well, then she really should have some kind of secret going on. But no, she doesn't.
Her cupcakes change people's nails pink. Change everything. Like
changes
pink.
Red's nails pink.
Yeah.
It does some other stuff to some other people.
That's true.
She's like...
They have a pink flamingo feather.
This is a good cupcake.
Pink flamingo feather on each cupcake. Yes.
And she's like, I'm going to eat all of them. And she's like, no, you can't.
Which are very rare.
Because it's Wonderland. Alice eats the cake, grows bigger, drinks the other shit, whatever.
It's small, yes.
And then we get the song, because she's like, hey, it's nice to be nice. So then we get the song, life is sweeter, catch more things with sugar than salt. And this is just a bop. It's a good time. And then it gets ruined a bit by the villains appearing.
Hades, Maleficent, the weird green guy that you know the name of.
But first, they just roll in, and I think it's more fucking pirates. And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's the goddamn pirate. They ruin everything in these movies. Tumbling and flipping around because everything's all pink and bright, and they're giving a cupcake to Aladdin and Jasmine because, we get to see some of these people briefly that we hadn't before because everybody's young here. But then the villains show up, and everything turns dark and blue. So yes, we have Hook. And we, of course, had his very fucked up son.
Harry Hook.
At least I think that was his name.
Yes.
Then we get Maleficent, who doesn't look very good in this. looks worse than Kristen Chenoweth's outfit. Hades, who looks fine. It's just kind of like a weird mashing of styles where it's like all their cronies are pirates, but then Hades looks like a biker.
Yeah.
Then Morgie, who I had to do a deep dive. Morgie is the son of a character from the Sorcerer's Apprentice, not the Mickey Mouse Fantasia segment, but the Nicolas Cage live action movie.
That's weird.
Most well known for my YouTube video where I took the clip from the trailer where he goes, "These are old man shoes."
Oh.
I like them a lot.
Oh.
I never watched the movie. So they really went deep. I feel like they could have come up with some other villain, but they went with Morgie. And then, what is this? Is this Ursula? That's kind of weird because she just looks exactly like Uma, even though she is a different actress. But no, it's not Ursula. For whatever reason, they didn't want to pull the trigger on Ursula. But it is Uliana. The sister, the younger sister of Ursula. And I thought maybe it's like a meta joke where they won't ever show Ursula on screen because we didn't see her in Descendants 2.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Maybe they'll finally get Whoopi to show up in one of these movies as Ursula. Who knows? But we get Uliana, who is the ringleader of the VKs, Villain Kids. Which is what I know that they refer to themselves in the Descendants, the first movies, but then this is, I don't know, is it used as like a slur here? Be like, that's where the VKs hang out.
Oh my.
In the Black Lagoon.
Oh. Emphasis on black.
You put it there, not me. So Uliana steals the magic cupcakes because she's a bully and she eats too much. She's warned.
She is warned, though, by Bridget, who says, don't eat them. Bad things will happen. She's like, eat them all. So she eats like 4 or 5. Each has the flamingo feather. She starts like coughing, like choking. We don't know what's happening to her. Her hair starts to turn pink. And then she starts growing a beak. She's turning into a flamingo is what we're seeing happen.
But like a white flamingo, which is... I just remembered, as you said, it was a flamingo feather. That is something in Alice in Wonderland where the Queen of Hearts like plays croquet with like flamingos as like the mallets and stuff like that. Yeah. All connect.
Wow.
It's a perfect move.
Oh my goodness.
So then Uliana's like chasing after them and eventually falls into a fountain, and then the magic is dispersed. She's no longer a flamingo. But Uliana's pissed.
She's angry.
So then she's like, I'm gonna get revenge. And they're like, oh, revenge? That kind of sounds like she might be doing there might be a prank going on here.
This is it.
Call Ashton Kutcher. I don't know what's happening here. Which then it's like,
we get a song called Revenge? Or is that later?
That's coming.
Later.
But going into this, we were like, oh, well, Cinderella's she's involved with the prank, right? How's that gonna really work out? It's not.
It never happens, and I don't know. I'm curious to what I wonder what the prank was going to be, and how, like you said, how Cinderella was going to be involved. There's no inclination,
but it is
no idea ever.
Them even needing to get revenge on Bridget. I mean, bullies, they got hard lives. Don't really try to read too much into their logic, but when it's like, I ate too many of these magical cupcakes and turned into a flamingo, and now I'm going to get revenge on the person who told me not to eat all these cupcakes. Whatever. Then, for reasons that I don't remember, Cinderella asks Bridget to castle coming because, like, Christopher tries to ask her, and she's like, ew, girls only. And eventually we're going to find out that Cinderella can't go to castle coming. So then I was like, oh, is that going to work into this? No, it doesn't. Then they visit Cinderella, at her home.
With the evil stepmother.
Because I guess she's not allowed to stay in the dorms or whatever.
So she wears ragged clothes at home and has to clean all the time.
And if we do see the evil stepmother and then get the name drop of Drusilla, who we need to know about Drizzy's mom. Drizzy from Descendants 2 and 3, I think.
Who works as the hair salon girl.
Yes. And they're going to see Ella to try to figure out more about Bridget, to be like, why is Uliana mean to her? Is it because she's easy prey? And it's like, no, it's because Bridget's too nice to her.
Yeah.
She wants to be friends with everybody, and Uliana's just a mean bully. But then the scene ends with Chloe breaking a vase because
Mom comes
she's
down.
too excited or something.
Yeah, she apologizes. She's like, sorry, doesn't buy me a new vase.
It's kind of playing up to be like,
You're grounded.
she has such a disconnect between who her mom used to be, because like she had this hard upbringing with who she is currently.
Yeah.
And she thinks she can kind of just skate by to be like, oh, well, I'm sorry. The world's fair, right? You'll be nice to me. And it's like, no, bitch. They call me the evil stepmother for a reason.
Yeah.
And Ella's kind of annoyed with her too. It'd be like, you do live in a different world for me. And then it's kind of, my view is like, is Chloe just like, I can't believe my mom was poor or whatever, even though she's not really poor, but
No.
So then they know more about Bridget. So then I believe this is where Ella gets grounded, by the way. So then I was like, oh, is she going to somehow be mad at Red and Chloe? We also floated around like, is them going back in time what always happens anyways? And this is going to kind of create the prank that they're trying to avert, that kind of time travel trope. But nope, she's just grounded. She won't be able to go to Castle Coming, but we don't even see that happen. And then they basically know that like, oh, well, they just know like, oh, let's go look at the villains. They'll probably tell us what they're going to do for revenge, which they do. So they go to the Black Lagoon, which is where they hang out, and Uliana pulls out a vape pen that she blows on, and it summons like a fish carcass that is kind of
big.
It's reminiscent of
like a lanternfish. Oh,
yeah, as well as just like Ursula's lair.
You think of like the whale they go into in like Pinocchio kind of thing?
I'm not thinking of that. I'm thinking of Ursula's lair in the Little Mermaid. Monstro, I mean.
Monstro.
If you didn't get far enough in Kingdom Hearts to go into Monstro.
Many rooms.
Did you get to Monstro?
Many rooms. I'm like riffing on the new 50 Cent song that's going viral, Many Men.
Oh.
Sorry, Donald Trump. Many rooms, yes, there's many rooms.
We're seeing our different internet. We're like, oh, there's this Donald Trump thing going viral, and I'm like, I'm talking about Brat Summer, and you don't even know who Megan Thee Stallion is. So we're operating on very different wavelengths.
Yes, and there's many different rooms, and you go up and you go down. You got to go to one, it takes you to another. So it's like a maze. It's like a mystery.
Did you get to Monstro?
I don't know. I played on that level.
Did you get to Monstro? I can't tell. Whatever. So the villains then sing a song called Perfect Revenge.
Revenge. Emphasis on revenge.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, for sure I'm going to remember like how it goes, but now I don't. But they're like, give me that revenge, or it's going to be revenge.
Songs are all good.
I don't really have the best way to describe it, but it's not exactly like Cardi B's style, but it's kind of like modern female rapper style, but like Disneyfied. Yeah. So it's primarily an Uliana led song, but like the other villains are like, what if we pricked her with a lot of thorns? And Uliana's like, so that she'll sleep? And it's like, well, technically Sleeping Beauty was eternal sleep, so that would be kind of a fucked up thing to do. Death. Hades like, what if we burn her?
Burn her, yeah. Burn her to a crisp or whatever he says, yeah.
I thought this song was kind of bad, but Jacob liked it.
I liked all the songs in this movie. I want to try to find them on Spotify.
And Red and Chloe, they get into and spy on them, but they just climb onto the carcass and tear a hole in it.
Yeah, they rip a hole in the fish.
And they're watching all of the pirate crew and whoever dancing around.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this is it. We gotta spoil this revenge plot.
And Uliana uses some kind of prophetic spell to be like, what is the best way to prank her? And it summons an ethereal cookbook. And then they're like, oh, it shows that like they'll make a cupcake and it'll turn Bridget into like a mushroom person. So then armed with that knowledge, well, first they leave and are briefly attacked by a giant eel. Yes. Presumably Flotsam or Jetsam. Even though those are Ursula's eels.
They're big eels. They look sloppy. They look I don't know. They look slimy. They look
Sounds
sloppy.
like you just want to say they're sloppy. They look sloppy. Sloppy. I mean, sloppy. I can't stop saying sloppy. So then they're
sloppy toppy.
Oh, cookbook. That Bridget's got a cookbook. So they go to Bridget, who has like wireless over the head. She's got like Beats by Dre headphones. And I'm like, isn't this supposed to be like in the 90s or something? Or
where's
the timeline in these movies make no sense.
Needs a Walkman.
I guess I have to read all the books to make it make
pretty
sense.
Cool.
And Bridget's still really nice. She's like, I'm practicing my love shuffle for Castle coming.
No.
Oh, you want a book? Oh, I should have all of them except for the bad books. And they're like, bad books?
Merlin.
Who would have the bad books that you'd use to get revenge on somebody?
Yeah.
She says, well, Merlin would have them so that no bad people can get them.
And they have all these spells and stuff on them, so they're hard to get.
Well, they'll find that out, whether she says that here or not.
They say she said something. That
so we're about 2/3, or maybe not. We might even be over 2/3 of the way through the movie at this point. Certainly 2/3 through my notes, where Red and Chloe have to have their fight. So here, it is a disagreement over whether, basically how to get these books. Red's like, let's just break into his office. And Chloe's
That's
like,
bad.
No, let's ask him. And this is where it's really trying to be like, Red is the bad girl.
She's like, sometimes you got to get dirty to get.
This is just like, yeah, I'm bad. I lie. I cheat.
I steal.
I don't even know if she says I steal.
She says that.
Oh, okay.
She says that.
So somebody on the writers'
Eddie
staff
Guerrero.
is a WWE Eddie Guerrero fan. LA or Latino
Heat.
World Order. Yeah, Latino Heat. So this really feels forced to be like, maybe you are just like your mom and I'm whatever. This is literally in classic DCOM fashion will get resolved within one scene.
Yeah.
And that scene is Chloe going to see her mom and they sing a song together called Get Your Hands Dirty.
Yeah.
Another fun little song.
They clean up her whole dirty house.
Chloe coming from her ivory tower or whatever, she's like, just be good. That's the only way to do it. And Cinderella, she's down in the fucking muck. Yeah. She's been through it. And she's like, nah, like if you gotta like save your family or help somebody and you gotta steal or whatever, like that seems fine to me. It's really basic like philosophy stuff. Like, would you steal to like feed your sick kid or whatever? And Chloe eventually is like, maybe you got a point here. So then she goes and sees Red and is like, well, she finds Red mid breaking into Merlin's office and she's like, I'm here to help. And then they just like pick the lock or whatever. While they were doing this, all the villains are watching them from afar. And then they get into Merlin's office and it
seems too easy at first, but then it's like
they struggle enough just getting up to the book because they're like, here's this big ladder, but it is one of those library ladders that doesn't slide down
over.
The
So they're trying to reach to get to the book. There's two owls on a fireplace, and like they trigger like they're kind of like alarms or whatever, and like the owls start flying around, and it triggers swords.
Yeah, the anti-theft measure is about like 6 swords,
and they all have like King Arthur and different things like names.
Yeah,
on the
probably
swords.
however many Knights of the Round Table.
Oh yeah. Okay, yep, that makes sense. And they start like flying around. They're stabbing at them. They're on the ground. They're running around. The swords are getting stabbed into walls.
Which is like, if these things are so dangerous, because this is at Merlin Academy.
Yes, in his office.
If is this to prevent children from getting these books, or if it's to prevent really bad people from getting them, maybe they shouldn't be here. Maybe they should be somewhere else, more secure than Merlin's office. But it's not even just like these swords, and then like one of the owls flies out to go alert Merlin, but then the other owl summons a knight in armor to try to kill them. And Chloe's using her own sword to deflect some of them, but then they're not able to quite do it.
She uses her diamond boots.
So her mom had given her, I believe it's supposed to be the glass slippers from Cinderella, but they're just like glass shoes that don't really seem glass until they're thrown, and I guess they shattered, so they're glass.
So she knocks out one of the owls,
which then stops the knight from being summoned. And they're like, all right, let's go get the book. But then the villains come in and they're like, hoo, we're so evil.
Give us that book. And then they get the book and then they open it, which freezes them.
Because the book can sense if you're bad.
Yeah.
And then if you're bad, you get frozen.
So they're all frozen, like 4 of them. And then they push one of them over.
Hook.
They push Hook over.
Jacob's like, I want her to kiss him. I'm like, Jacob, save it for the therapy sessions if you're like, I want sleep paralysis, and then for somebody to kiss me. I want the girl from The Ring to kiss me.
Yikes. Yikes.
So then it becomes...
They just sneak out. Well, they hear the howling. Oh.
Well, because Merlin's arriving. But before that, it's this big test. Oh, well, you should look at it, Chloe, because if it's for bad people, it'll freeze me. But she's like, no. You're good.
You're good at heart.
And Red opens it, evil. And she is good. Big surprise that she mostly hasn't done anything bad.
Yeah. So,
but then it's like, well, if this is an extra countermeasure for it, like all bad people will be frozen, then within like the morality and ethics of this society, they would just assume all of the quote unquote good people would always be good, even though technically Audrey, in 3, she became evil.
ooh.
But Merlin would just be like, oh, I guess basically it doesn't seem necessary to have all the flying swords.
No.
They're just going to freeze bad people if they open the book.
Yes.
Whatever the case is, they steal the book.
They sneak out the window.
And then they just like go back to their dorm room and they're like, the look on Uliana's face, am I right? And then
Merlin comes in and says, detention
whatever,
for
that doesn't
years
matter.
to you.
He doesn't catch them. He catches the bad people.
Yes.
And I don't even know what they do with the book.
No.
It's just like,
I thought they left it behind.
They're like, well, they can't find it now.
Didn't they leave it behind there in his office?
Yeah, but then it's like, how would they have read it anyways if they were evil and they couldn't have accessed it? And I was like, questions like, oh, maybe they saw what was on the material in the page for like a second and then they froze.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how this prank would have happened even if they weren't around.
That's true. That's a good point.
And then the whole idea of like, it seemed to be implied that Cinderella was involved with it because she's like, it was just one prank. And it's like,
yeah. You didn't do anything wrong.
Cinderella wasn't working with the villains.
Or maybe she just got distracted because those two showed up and maybe they
maybe that had a different butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Whatever the case is, the Chloe and Red, they're like, all right, problem solved.
It's good. End of movie.
They roll back to their present time where then I pulled up like how much time is left in the movie and it was 6 minutes. And I'm like, oh, this is just the end of the movie.
So when they left, she had thrown her cards in the air that had summoned all, her guards.
The Queen of Hearts did.
Yes. And then when we go back to present time, she's throwing her cards again, but they're like celebratory.
Yeah, they make bubble hearts fall down.
Yeah.
Because from the back, her dress is red and she looks exactly the same. But then she turns around and the Queen of Hearts' front of her dress is white. She still has a weird accent, but she's a good queen.
Everything's good again.
Yeah, I really thought it was going to be like, something screwed up. They'll get there. The timeline's still a little off.
It is.
Some kind of final conflict. But no, they're just like, oh shit, we did it.
Yeah.
Cool.
The end.
Let's sing the best song again and have a sick remix of Life is Sweeter. And it's like, sure, I'm on board. I'm dancing in my seat. I had already known that this was going to happen because it was in the IMDb trivia for this.
I was asking, I wonder if they're going to make another one.
But then Uma comes. So famously, I do think truly famously, but definitely for us, Descendants 1 and 2 ends with characters looking at the camera and saying, bet you didn't think this was the end of the story. This kind of cheats and has Uma narrate to be like, yep, everything's cool, but sometimes you gotta be careful what you wish for, maybe.
Ooh.
Did you really think this is the end of the story? And I'm like, well, that's not really as fun. Are they forcing Uma on us? What's with all of this Uma? I was never the biggest fan of Uma, but I was a decent enough fan of this movie, Descendants, The Rise of Red. And I'll tell you what, the future of this podcast might be as shaky as the future of a coup.
Oh.
We might be having a coup in our future. But I'll tell you, sequels to Descendants, zombies, whatever these movies, we will come back and do episodes for these movies.
They're good. They're good movies. This is a good movie.
Yeah, I think this Descendants 3 was my
How long? How long was this? Hour and 40?
No, this was 94 minutes.
Wow.
And they might have even had some of those long Disney Plus credits where they like give every language translation.
Hour 30, not bad.
Honestly, could have been a little longer. Some of the plot just feels
the end was very rushed.
There's really no climax of the movie. I guess it's the Merlin stealing the book.
Yeah.
So really, it's what do you come to these movies for?
Like,
for me,
I think we should have seen them go to the dance and just have fun. Yeah. Maybe they just didn't have the budget. Maybe they ran out of money.
I don't think so.
I mean,
they spent a lot on all those effects.
Yes.
Though I will say Cinderella's house looked like trash.
Oh, as it was supposed to, though.
Well, no, the Brandy Cinderella house.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Maybe it's the same one, and she's like, I ain't cleaning this shit anymore. So yeah, it's like, do you come to these movies? I know definitely younger fans or fans of the original movies, they really like those characters and their relationships, even though like I felt like there's nothing really there. I like the music in these movies, or I like music, and I like the music in this movie. I didn't necessarily like music in the other Descendants movies. So I think plot-wise, Probably Descendants 3 is still better than this, but I think I hold them on relatively equal ranking in my mind, where Descendants 1, in my opinion, is the worst. Descendants 2 is a little better, and then Descendants 3 and Rise of Red are both mediocre, grading on the grand DCOM curve.
Yeah.
Jacob?
No, I'm curious to see.
Now that you're done with your yawn.
I'm curious to see what they do with should there be another movie? I don't know who would have gotten bad or who would have been worse. Maybe it has something to do with the 4 Frozen. How the 4 got frozen. Maybe they just have like their.
I mean, so many of these movies are like, who's my mom? Who's my dad? So I wonder if there's going to be something with like.
We missed Dopey in this movie. We wanted Dopey.
Yeah, I can't remember what his son's name was.
Dopey's dick action.
Who is Red's father? Who is the Queen of Hearts' husband? That could be something. I mean, that was what Descendants 3 was hanging on like Hades and all of that.
And what they have now is they have a bunch of new set of actors and actresses that can continue the story. They're not relying on.
I mean, at least some of the originals. I like Dove Cameron. She's been in stuff, but I don't think any of their careers have really like blown up where it's like, I'm too big to come back for Descendants.
I don't think we'd see like these.
We'd
see these
what
30-year-olds?
Is Bobo? I think
Bobo.
I can't remember. That's the actor's name. It's like, what's Bobo doing?
Yeah,
what's Cameron doing? I'm sorry.
Yikes.
So that was
he's an eternal slumber.
So the great question is a personal question. Is do I put this in my Letterboxd ranking of all Disney Channel original movies? I guess as a great technical list, I'm going to probably not put it in there because it's not a Disney Channel original movie.
If it were, where would you rank it, you think? Top 40?
I can't tell you. I mean, I haven't looked at that list in a while. That's fair. Yeah, I can't say.
Top half of your movies?
I'd have to look first where Descendants 3 is and look
where
around
other ones
that
are.
and see which ones I like more or less than that.
It was good, though. We liked it. We're fans. We approve it.
So if you want to get in on the conversation, since this is a new hot release, at least within the last 2 weeks of probably when this episode gets released, you can let us know what you thought if you are a diehard Descendants fan or just somebody who's familiar with the series by writing to us at awholenewpod@gmail.com. Haven't done it for a while, but maybe probably won't be very fun. But never remember bringing it back. A real classic episode altogether. Yeah. Could Red and Chloe have stopped 9/11?
They have the time clock.
They have the time
But
watch.
What would happen? They said there could be ramifications of messing with time. They could lose.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it's like we took off all of the box cutters, but then it's like, oh no, we let this gun slip through. It's like, well, we're going back to our time. Problem solved. Nothing to see here. It's like, yeah, maybe they'd have to take a few tries. They'd have to keep going back to be like, okay, maybe we just tell the CIA.
Yeah.
Actually, the CIA
they're in on it.
We told the pilots or something.
Oh, there you go. They're in on it too.
Where you do the classic where it's like, well, there was only 2 of them, so they couldn't get all of the planes. Yeah.
I would say, in theory, yes. The planes aren't crashing. Maybe one, the one in the fields.
I believe.
My
mom's side of the family, they had a lake cabin nearby here where, not to don't need to know too much about my family, but my mom's side of the family sold the cabin to my dad's sister, so my aunt has it. So I still get to go there and like use it or whatever. But probably since like 2002 or 2003, in our lake cabin, right next to, pretty close at least, to a big mouth Billy Bass. It's just a framed picture of firefighters responding on 9/11 and raising up a flag. And it says never forget or whatever. And we had that there until recently, 20 plus years.
Wow.
And I wanted kind of to keep it like ironically, but I think somebody else took it or something. And I'm just like, coming back years later, I'm like, why do we have this? But post 9/11 for any of our fans who weren't around, it was a crazy time.
Patriotic.
That's one way to put
America.
it. You could say jingoistic, maybe.
Wow, Django Unchained.
But we were kids, so we
were
aware. But I'll tell you what, I'll come out and say at the time, while I was 10 years old, I did not approve of the invasion of Iraq in 2003. I'll be on the record.
Wow.
You can look at my record. My voting record showed I was not
my.
pro the invasion of Iraq. I guess Jacob finds that to be a controversial opinion or something.
As a 10-year-old.
Okay, we're moving on. We're moving on. A whole new pop.
Oh, I don't even know.
We've
what
already
flavor
plugged
this
it. So this is one I've had
4 months.
probably potentially like for 3 months.
Oh, man.
I'm wondering if it still
Expired and flat.
August 12th. So we're good. I mean, we would still drink it even if we didn't. So this
Yes.
is, I don't know if we ever said we had this before, but we have in my hand, Dr. Pepper Creamy Coconut.
Oh, sweet cream.
I'm a big fan of coconut, but I'm wondering, it does say limited edition, but some of they've had like, they're still selling like strawberries and cream.
Oh.
So like some of these got like codified as real flavors because Dr.
Yeah.
Pepper seems to be like trying to expand their market share.
Yeah.
Because I think Dr. Pepper is like third behind a single drink behind like Coke or Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Gotta
whatever.
diversify.
But I mean, they got one thing that they're really offering, but coconut seems to be like a big bet. So maybe that's why I was just like a limited flavor because it can be kind of a controversial one. I use the Reddit phone app, and that one can be weird where sometimes it'll just recommend you communities that or subreddits that I don't go to. Somehow I found myself on the K-Fan subreddit, which is a local sports radio AM FM station or whatever that Sam is a big fan of. And I just was on the K-Fan subreddit and everybody's just talking about these various hosts that they hate. So I was sharing with them. Whatever the case, I came onto like, I think the soda subreddit where people were sharing that they got this soda. They're like, oh, I found it at my store, the creamy coconut. Everybody's hyping up the soda saying it's really good. Hey, if you follow the soda subreddit, you probably know what you're talking about with sodas. So exciting stuff.
This is it.
We'll crack this open.
Oh, it's still hissing at you.
Very carbonated.
That's a good. We like that. I'm gonna
All right, Jacob.
trip over the
not needed
mic.
to make the precarious walk over for quite a while.
Stumbling and mumbling.
And I'm losing my voice. We haven't podcasted in so long.
Oh, it smells funky. It smells like coconut for sure.
Yeah. So my feeling is always that Dr. Pepper, I need it cold. So we had this refrigerated before, but now we've been recording for a while. So it's maybe warmed up some. So
definitely smells.
To help my rough throat, let's wet the whistle.
He's losing it. We're wetting his whistle.
Yeah, it's a very strong
Coconut.
artificially coconut. I don't know if I love that.
Kind of only tastes like coconut.
Well, I mean, it's the 24th flavor in this mix. To give you a context of how much I like coconut, back in high school, I mean, well, I don't eat too much candy anymore, but back in high school, I liked Almond Joys. And I would purposely get Almond Joys because when we'd go over to our friends' houses or whatever, Sam would say he was allergic to coconut. I'm like, you just say you don't like coconut. He's like, no, I'm allergic. And I like concocted. I'm like, should I somehow get him to eat coconut?
To see if he
but
is.
That could be bad, and like I could kill him maybe if he was allergic.
Well,
but I had Almond Joys because nobody would steal them from me because nobody else liked coconut.
Yeah.
But then I'd take them home and my mom or brother would eat them because they liked coconut. But yeah,
not bad.
For this one to be the one that
I don't mind it.
was sitting on my shelves for so long to get through various Mountain Dews or whatever that were more
I'm taking it
summer
home.
releases. Yeah, I'll give it to Jacob. Fucking flush it down the toilet.
Oh, my ass. It's all gone. I'm not leaving a half drinking cup of
of the bad
pecker.
one.
I'm gonna go try to find some more milk.
That was
milk.
Creamy coconut for a whole new pop.
Yeah, that's sweet cream.
And
I'm a fan.
I guess I got to get through this quick.
His voice is going.
So you can find us on your podcast platforms of choice. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. That's mostly what seems to be left at this point. Our YouTube channel, youtube.com/a whole new pod, where if you haven't watched our spinoff singular a whole new pop episode, you can find it on there. It's got a great screen cap of Jacob mid-burp, I believe.
I saw that.
There's just one of like 4 that they generated, and I'm like, well, this one at least has like a Mountain Dew in like the frame, so that's why I went with it. but it did make Jacob look very silly.
I know.
So that's always a bonus point. Then you can also find us on Twitter, x.com/AWN
Yes.
pod. I don't know. Dustin, we can maybe just release you from your service.
Dominating DH. He's in it for the long haul.
Well, I just don't think Twitter's a great platform for discovery of any kind anymore. And though I would be woeful to disappoint the few porn bots that follow over at our Twitter account. But you can find us on there. I haven't seen Dustin had that kid of his. Jacob's seen the kid at this point. I haven't even seen the damn kids still. I just text Dustin every once in a while, shitting on Jacob, shitting on our friend Jake, talking shit, and to help him up. He's a dad, he likes the jokes.
Loves the jokes. The dad jokes now. He brings them.
Yeah. I gotta be aware that some of the stuff, it's like, well, maybe having a kid changes you. Dustin will become a boomer dad now. Where he's like, I don't know. I thought what Jake put in the group chat was funny. That was a hot meme right there. Are we forgetting anything?
Lucas is going to go ice his throat after this.
He's I don't know what's going on. I got to run my monthly training at work on Friday, so hopefully my voice recovers by then.
Oh, no.
Sorry, folks. I can't do the training because I was doing a podcast about Descendants, The Rise of Red with my friend, who I hate.
As he looks at me with loving eyes.
So yeah, until then, I don't know what we're gonna do next.
We're gonna create an AI voice for Lucas, so he no longer has to speak physically.
Yeah, I don't know, but stay tuned.
Watch this movie on Disney Channel,
that's
August 9th. That's
what we could say. For so long, we've had a recurring catchphrase on this show, but I'll say thank you, Sam Blaze. Because he gave me his Disney Plus login.
Thanks, Sam.
Because I ain't paying for this shit anymore. And he pays, and there's no commercials, and it's got Hulu on there. So big ups to Sam Blaze.
Sam's
you know what?
Contribution.
Shout out to the dads out there.
The dads out there.
I heart hot dads.
Oh, man, I'm all pumped up, maniacs. Hulk Hogan here, and I just spent the afternoon with the 700 Club. Things are really starting to roll around this place, brother. We talked about spiritual healing, bringing the land, bringing the people back together, and it only happens through our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan, the 700 Club, and our Lord and Savior run wild on you, brother?